For nearly a century, the busiest trade corridor in North America ran across a bridge owned by one family. Not managed, not operated, owned. A private bridge collecting private tolls on more than $100 billion of trade every single year. And when two governments decided to build a public alternative, that family went to war. Lawsuits in two countries. $30 million on a single ballot campaign. Even fake eviction notices nailed to doors in a Detroit neighborhood. They fought for 20 years. This summer, they lost. So how did one family come to own an international border? And what did it take, 25 years and $4.7 billion, to finally break their grip? Understand what was at stake here. The Detroit-Windsor crossing isn't just any border. More than a quarter of all trade between the United States and Canada moves through this narrow stretch of river. Auto parts, food, machinery. The bloodstream of two economies. And for decades, almost all of it funneled across one aging bridge, the Ambassador. A loaded 5-axle truck pays $75 to $100 to cross, $15 to $20 per axle. A car, about 10. By recent traffic counts, thousands of trucks and cars every day that adds up to toll revenue estimated at well over $100 million a year. More than $500,000 every single day, flowing to one private company. That's not a bridge. That's a money printing machine. And the family that owned it had every reason, hundreds of millions of reasons every year, to make sure no one ever built a second one. The Ambassador Bridge opened in 1929, and at the time, it was a wonder. The longest suspension bridge in the world, privately financed in the Roaring '20s, just before the crash. 50 years later, in 1979, a trucking magnate named Matty Moran bought it, famously outbidding one of the richest investors in America to get it. Moran understood something most people didn't. A border crossing isn't infrastructure. It's a choke point, and whoever owns a choke point owns everything that passes through it. For the next 4 decades, the Ambassador was the only way for trucks to drive between Detroit and Windsor. The tunnel nearby can't take heavy freight. So, as U.S.-Canada trade exploded, every crossing paid the Morans. But the bridge had a fatal flaw. On the Canadian side, it didn't connect to a highway. Thousands of trucks a day crawled through Windsor's residential streets, past homes and schools, to reach Highway 401. Delays, pollution, a century-old bridge carrying a modern economy. Everyone agreed a new crossing was needed. Everyone except the family collecting the tolls. Here's what building a competitor actually meant. First, the money. A new bridge, 2 customs plazas, and highway connections would cost billions. Michigan's legislature, lobbied hard by the Morans, refused to commit a single dollar. No state money, and the project looked dead. So Canada made a move with almost no precedent. It offered to pay for everything. The bridge, the roads, even the American Customs Plaza on American soil. Canada calculated that unclogging its biggest trade artery was worth billions, even if it meant footing the entire bill for both countries. That solved the money. It didn't solve the Morans. They sued. In American courts and Canadian courts, appeal after appeal, reaching as high as the Michigan Supreme Court, arguing their 1920s franchise gave them exclusive rights over the crossing. They went to the ballot. In 2012, Matty Moran spent more than $30 million pushing Proposal 6, a Michigan constitutional amendment requiring a public vote on any new international bridge. Ads implied taxpayers would foot the bill for the new crossing, even though Canada was paying for all of it. Michigan voters saw through it. 60% said no. And when legal and political routes failed, things got stranger. In 2011, fake eviction notices appeared on doors in Delray, the Detroit neighborhood beside the planned bridge site, designed to turn residents against the project. The family's companies also held land directly in the new bridge's path, fighting condemnation to the end. Every year of delay meant tens of millions more in tolls. For the Morans, losing slowly was still winning. Canada's answer to all of it was a structure the Morans couldn't sue, outspend, or outlast. The Gordie Howe International Bridge, named for a Canadian hockey legend who became a Detroit icon, a deliberate symbol of two countries building together. A cable-stayed span stretching 853 meters across the Detroit River, the longest main span of any cable-stayed bridge in North America, held by 216 steel cables from towers as tall as a 70-story skyscraper. Built over one of the busiest shipping channels on the continent, its two halves were constructed outward from opposite countries and met mid-air in near-perfect alignment. But the real engineering isn't the span, it's the connections. For the first time, trucks drive directly from Ontario's Highway 401 onto Interstate 75. Highway to highway, no neighborhoods, no traffic lights. The exact flaw that defined the Ambassador for a century, designed out of existence. And the financing was engineered as carefully as the steel. A public-private partnership where private companies build and maintain the bridge for 30 years. Canada fronts the entire $4.7 billion, and tolls slowly pay it back. The monopoly wasn't broken by a court ruling. It was broken by concrete. But even at the finish line, the fight wasn't over. In early 2026, with the bridge complete, the President of the United States threatened to block it from opening amid a tariff war with Canada. He even demanded American ownership of half a bridge Canada had paid for. And a delay would have directly benefited one party, the family that owns the competing bridge, whose donations had flowed to friendly politicians for years. The threat worked, briefly. The opening slipped 6 weeks while the two governments renegotiated. But the bridge opened. The symbolism curdled anyway. After Washington announced new tariffs days before the ceremony, Canada pulled out of the joint ribbon cutting and celebrated alone. A bridge built as a monument to friendship, opening in the middle of a trade war. And now, a new battle begins, the toll war. It actually started before the bridge even opened. In April, the Ambassador quietly cut its prepaid car tolls nearly in half, bracing for competition. Crossing the Gordie Howe costs $5.75 for a car. The Ambassador charges around $10. The Morowns still own their bridge, still collect their tolls, and are still lobbying. Because for the first time in nearly a century, truckers have a choice. The question is no longer whether the monopoly ends. It's whether the Ambassador Bridge, the wonder of 1929, survives the competition. If the Gordie Howe works as designed, it becomes more than a bridge. It becomes proof that a public project can outlast private money. 25 years of planning against 20 years of lawsuits, and the public project won. For Windsor, trucks finally leave the neighborhood streets. For Detroit, a new gateway. For two economies, a crossing built for this century instead of the last one. But the strangest part of this story isn't the family that fought the bridge. It's that for 97 years, no truck could cross the busiest trade corridor in North America without paying one of them. That era ended on July 27, 2026, not with a verdict, not with a vote, with traffic.